Okay, let's start this meeting. Goshen Water and Sanitation District at 3 o'clock. Thursday, November 13th. Let's call the meeting to order with roll call. Bill. Here. Lynn. Here. Gene. Here. Alex. Here. BJ said he'll be here shortly, so we'll continue until he gets here. The first thing on the agenda is discussion of the 2026 budget.
So before we get to that,
Sure.
can we possibly shift the agenda to talk about the surcharges before we talk about the budget? Would that be useful to the board? Since that might be part of the budget discussion. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
So move forward to 3 and 3 to 4.
All right, let's go down to number 4 and talk about the water and wastewater affordable housing surcharges, which does, like you say, have an effect on the budget. So who wants to take the lead on that?
I'm fine, but I come from maybe a peculiar spot in that the only reason I see for a water district to extend waivers is to projects that will not happen without the waivers. If the project's gonna go forward and happen anyway, then there's little reason for us to hand out a waiver. And that's pretty much, I'm sure you could poke holes in me for having departed from that somewhat, not being perfectly consistent. So, you know, the waiver itself was kind of a compromise of when we were discussing the one big project down Hot Spring Boulevard. It was like, well, if we're gonna hand out these waivers, then we need to account for these quote unquote losses. And we were gonna split it between a surcharge and also a charged capital 50/50. Never charged capital. However, we did charge capital quite a bit for other things. And so I understand the reluctance to charge capital anymore in this economy. So I don't personally see the need to collect a surcharge because the only affordable housing projects I'm going to support are the ones that wouldn't happen anyway without the waiver. So there's no actual loss. There's a paper loss, but you're monstering up costs that you're not really going to incur. And then I'm also, in that regard, open up to board discussion where board members push back and say, you know, I don't think that's true. I think this project will go forward without the waiver. And that's a good discussion to have. So I don't really think the waivers are necessary for us to consider true affordable housing projects, 80% AMI and below in District 1, which don't cost us on the back end. So I'm in favor. I think they get in the way of actually evaluating genuine affordable housing projects.
I tend to agree. It's how I think it's difficult for us to sit here and say it may go forward, it may not. That just is a kind of a subjective thing to me. And again, at our last meeting, we pretty much decided what we would support going forward, which included for 2026, I believe, nothing. So I tend to agree the surcharges, if we don't have any projects in the oven, we probably shouldn't have surcharges. My thoughts.
Right. I mean, we have a disagreement there, and that I may in 2026, if Habitat comes forward and they want 2 homes in District 1 at 78% AMI, and their program really can't go forward without them, I may vote for a waiver for a genuine project like it, because they don't consider that a genuine loss. But you may not, and that will be the way it goes. But we don't. These surcharges were never intended to be this high. They started out at 22 cents and 78 cents. And then with the big bump up on the Reg 85 costs, boom, 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 they're, over $3. I mean, that's just not,
Crazy.
so I do think they get, and then they'll become a pot of money on the water side. Because that's what they are, because we provide, pretty aggressive density bonuses on the water side. We never hand out the waivers that we budget. And because we don't provide what I think some people would agree are sensible density considerations on the wastewater side for very small apartments, we wind up at least nominally incurring huge losses. So I'm fine. I don't really see a problem with it, but I may be unique because I see we have maybe 200,000 we're expecting in water. But we also have in the surcharge account a surplus, and that can kind of match that until in 2027, we actually see the results of a new rate study, which will take over. And for me, on the wastewater side, I'm fine with January 1st, stop collecting the wastewater surcharge and recognizing the quote unquote losses in the system as paper losses that we're not going to try and recoup, so to speak. And that kind of, for me, that kind of cleans it up, and we can make our decisions kind of like BJ has said, like when people come forward to us, what's the whole community bringing? Is this only pause? In which case my argument that our participation makes the project possible, you can probably shoot holes in it. Now, if the whole community comes forward and matches us, and suddenly there's a $50,000 or $60,000 discount provided by the whole community, not just PAWSD, for a $325,000 house. Okay, well now the argument that this is necessary might become more plausible. Or you may say no, so that's a long way of saying I'm fine with the surcharge is going away, and I don't even see any repercussions from that.
Bill?
So I have kind of a process problem. We can't make a decision tonight on this. And I think what we'd have to have is a resolution and a public hearing. If we're getting rid of fees, do we have to have a public hearing? To get
You
rid
have
of
to have
fees?
it's a 30-day public notice.
Right,
Mhm.
And a public hearing.
we're just giving
The
them,
public hearing piece went away in some statutory revisions, but it's a public meeting. It's just you don't have the formality of the opening and closing of the.
and we should have an ordinance that we actually read and agree on. And it also, but we can give, you all, staff, direction on what choices to make in the budget.
Mhm,
And that you need,
mhm.
so. And we could change our minds and,
I'm
but I don't think any.
fine with
yeah,
it going away.
Yeah.
BJ?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a proponent. I guess it's hard because it feels like decisions thus far have been made similar to how that evens out in essence. But I think in getting rid of it, it allows us to look at individuals as individuals versus what's the budget, I think when we tell the community we're taking something for a reason, we then have an obligation to provide that in some way. While as I think that maybe the current board's focus isn't necessarily not helping the community, but at the same time, it's like, let's not put ourselves in an obligatory state to have to do something or feel obligated to do something when, like Glenn's saying, realistically, the difference between realistic losses and paper losses, even though it's a tough discussion to have in any legitimacy, that just brings that up all the more. So I think that it's a good thing to get rid of, and we can make our decisions based on a one-on-one basis versus an obligation.
Alex?
I'm very much in favor of getting rid of it. I like keeping rates low, and I think it's very rare that we have an opportunity to cut something off of a bill. We're obviously gonna have some increases, unavoidable, but it softens it up a little bit for our customers. And I think anything we can do to keep our bills as low as possible and provide good water and sewer, I'm for it. So I would love to see those charges disappear.
I think there's somebody in the audience that wanted to comment on this.
I don't see any raised hands.
I don't know.
Well, while we wait for that, I'll just add, I guess, one more thing. And I know you can't compare today to yesterday and stuff like that, but, you know, at a previous meeting, I mentioned that my wife and I were beneficiaries of a low interest chapel loan. And it was said, well, without that chapel loan, you wouldn't still be here. Well, yes, we would. And back then, there was zero subsidies. No PAWS, no county, no town, no La Plata, no nobody, no POPOA. And, you know, raised 4 kids doing all of that. So to me, it really all boils back down to we're a water and sanitation district. Let's get as good as we can at that and let the other people in the community, you know, like you say, other, you know, people coming in with whatever their resources are and help the affordable housing community get better, get bigger, you know, whatever it is. So,
Right, but we're the district putting near $16,000 fee on a 312 square foot super studio with a 4'8" by 6'3" bathroom. You know, so there are things that we need to address.
oh yeah, and I think that's another subject.
Yeah.
If our fixture count or whatever isn't working, and I know staff previously put hundreds of hours of study into that and researched other entities. But you know, that was several years ago, so you know, good point, but another subject in my opinion.
Well, I mean, but related, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. That's broadly.
Sounds like.
I don't have a lot to discuss about it. It's pretty simple. I want it off the bill, so.
Okay, well, I think it's fair to say that staff has direction to continue with the budget process, assuming that the surcharges go away.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Still don't see any hands raised, so let's go back up to number 3 then and talk about the 2026 budget. You know, we've got several pages of summaries, et cetera, but does any staff member have anything to add to that before we have board questions?
Yeah, I'll speak to just the revisions that went out. There is a staff summary sheet that just kind of outlines what the revisions were. But the revisions were made to add in the comptroller position line item and also a comptroller assistant position line item. So in doing so, that impacts a lot of different areas on the detail. You know, you'll see some areas with insurance, with salaries, it kind of has a ripple effect because when we added that in, you have to account for all of the other things that are gonna come along with that position on top of the salaries. So that's where a lot of the changes, majority of the changes came from. Where you see general insurance throughout, that change was made because we got our final workers' comp number in. And it did not change at all from what it was last year. The preliminary number looked as if it was going to decrease just slightly, but that was not the case when we got our final number. It remained the same, so I made that adjustment. The other 2 things that you will see revisions on are specific line items for the generators and pumps lift stations. That budget was increased to 120,000 because we lost a critical spare pump during the flood that we need to replace.
And that pump was from the Mockingbird lift station, I believe, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other change there that you'll see is on sludge removal and processing. That budget was increased to 120,000 because we have made a change to start hauling year round rather than storing in the winter months, which is preference anyways, because when you're storing for so long, and Andy, you can help me. explain
Yeah,
this a little
so
bit.
the way we have worked since we built that greenhouse is we shut down during the winter months and we store that sludge until the dump allows us to start to transport again. We've talked to Mike Torres at the county and he's allowing us to move all year long. So our fees are higher for this year, but the actual increase is our dumping fees are going up next year. We have to pay those extra fees for the dumping, but it's gonna be nice with being able to dump it all year. We're not gonna be storing sludge for 3 or 4 months during the winter months, because it doesn't dry well either, so. It's the less dry it is, the heavier it is, and the heavier it is, the more it costs.
Additionally, when we store it in the springtime,
Well, we have the increase, most of that increase is because our dump fees are actually going up. We're not hauling any more sludge than we did before. We're just able to get rid of it.
No,
off.
I just come from a background where that project was promoted for a whole set of reasons, which never turned out.
Yeah,
And so we spent, $6 million on a project. So we could bring somewhat drier, lighter sludge to the dump and pay the same amount of money. So, I don't mind bringing wetter, heavier sludge to the dump after a 3 or 4 month period if it saves us $30,000, unless on the other side, there's some real benefit that's worth
Oh.
additional money.
no, it will not save us any
Okay.
money. Our dumping fees are going up.
Okay,
So that's where the cost increase is.
okay.
Yeah.
So this did it. Okay, fine.
Yeah, we'll actually get more benefit out of it because we're able to get rid of it sooner.
one of the negatives with holding it all winter long is that in the springtime, it really stinks. And we get a lot of complaints from the neighboring properties. When you let that stuff sit there for 3 or 4 months, it creates quite an odor.
Yeah,
Right.
another challenge.
Right, which was not a feature, which was highlighted when we wasted $5.9 million on that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will still recoup our money from that. It's just going to take about 200 years.
I remember back in the day when the county was very thankful that we hauled our sludge up because they used it for cover. They're still thankful, I think. but
Yeah, they still use it.
Costing a little more.
There's also a benefit to the greenhouse in that we do get to use the greenhouse for storage. Our alternative, when we are shut out of the landfill here, would be to haul it further. That would be a significant cost. So the ability to be able to store it for any period of time, I see as a true benefit. Otherwise, we'd have to haul it to further in the next place.
Yeah, we probably have to haul it to at least Durango, if not farther. It depends on who would take it.
Yeah.
So storage
We do
is
use it.
nice.
We do
It's
use it.
Right, but you could
it's-
either build a storage facility or arrange for a rural location storage facility for a lot less than $5.9 million.
Yes, you can.
I mean, it's good that we're using it.
Oh,
It has
yeah.
benefit, but it's full potential.
That was the green component of a larger project, right?
Yeah.
And so we were sold on our ability to be able to sell that to the public, that the person who was in charge of that whole program at the state level was vehemently against, just right out the gate. He just wouldn't even talk to me about it, so. That's changed. I still don't think we're gonna be selling it anytime soon, but yeah, I think we make good use of that facility for what
Yeah,
it
and
was.
And it does dry, so.
It does dry.
When it's drier, it costs less to haul.
Yeah, we may not be using it to its fullest envisioned potential, but we are definitely getting some benefit out of
Yeah.
it.
We do get some benefits.
When the
So they
county,
charge by the ton, is that correct? It's not by the cubic yard.
But
Yeah, somebody approached us for an opinion and they were considering building a similar facility. We would be honest with them until.
Oh, yeah.
Don't, yeah.
oh yeah, in my research and in my efforts to accommodate a former board member who was highly in favor of that becoming a marketable product.
Yeah,
I found that very few of those facilities are actually able to do any of what they.
and you were facing every year increasing. You know, right,
Right.
thresholds for metal and I mean, every time they could, yeah,
Medication.
Yeah,
medication and yeah.
We live in
COVID,
a community with a lot of elderly people on medication and that ends up in.
No, I mean, we wasted,
Hey, you calling?
I mean, you inherited that and we wasted more of your time than
It's a
anything.
retirement plan if you didn't know.
I was happy to do it. It was very interesting to me, but we were sold on that as being the green component for some grant money, and we ended up,
Well, we did get some, yeah,
we did.
the 0 interest loan.
Yep, we got a zero interest loan,
So-
yeah.
All right.
So we're trying to make the best of that.
Yep.
When we got locked out of the landfill,
Yeah, we.
they had some compliance issues and we couldn't haul there
So then that's another reason to dump it when you can dump it, because you never know
when they might.
when you get locked out and you'll need that 4 months.
And to
Yeah,
make sure
okay.
that you have a place to store it in case,
Right,
I
okay.
mean, we don't know, we're at the mercy.
That makes sense.
It's a dump.
Yeah, there's also a new regulation on the books for Colorado, the T-norm. T-norm regulation that I think only other state I think that has it is maybe California.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure, Colorado might be ahead of California, but
Yeah, it's either that or Pennsylvania.
And you think that having done that, when they were gonna apply Reg 85 radically to just a few districts, they might look at the district that built that and say, you know what? Let's cut them a break and, but no.
Alex had a good idea as part of the reclamation portion of Dry Gulch. We could sell it to somebody to, reclaim the gravel pit back. There's some grass growing.
till it on in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Till it.
What's the going price for sludge these days?
Negative.
Negative dollars.
It's free.
It's fertilizer.
How many log park people are we gonna have here?
Nice log park. Linda has a comment she'd like to make.
Linda Lee, I don't know if you folks are aware of what's happened in Maine, with this specific topic that you're speaking about, but, a lot of the waste, companies sold or gave, the waste to farmers throughout the state of Maine. And, I think it's maybe 15 years since they've been doing the program. And now they've changed the amount of toxicity level from a very low amount, a very high amount to a lower amount. And they're condemning farmers' lands and they're buying them back for a marketable price of $1,600 an acre.
Another reason to stay out of that.
Well,
We're not allowed to mandate it in.
the East has been doing that for decades. Don't quote me on this, but I think New York, some of the larger cities produce so much sludge that they put it in rail cars and ship it to places like Colorado, because we've got a lot more agricultural area than they do. And they used to pay the state a pretty penny. Now, this goes back 20 years, but it's a big deal. Any other questions on the budget as we mosey along?
Oh, I've got quite a few, but maybe I'll go last, so I don't duplicate.
Well,
Another concern.
why don't you,
I'll go first then.
was the 120,000 that we increased the lift station budget? Was that a stress on the budget to do that?
No, it evened out okay.
That's the one that got hit by lightning.
Yeah, so during the flood event, Mockingbird, the station got hit by lightning, we lost a pump. We went ahead, we're going to plan on next year getting a new pump and a critical spare. We do not have a critical spare for that site. There's a possibility, we did send all the information through James Dickoff down at the town to see if there's any kind of reimbursal for the flood damage. So we might see a percentage of that back. We did submit that paperwork. But we need to plan on for right now, being able to absorb that cost for that pump and get a critical spare on site. That is a crucial lift station for the system.
As I recall, it's the second time that station has been struck by
has.
lightning.
Yeah, and it has lightning protection on it.
So my next question would be, is there any better lightning protection, anything more robust that we should consider?
We can look into it. We can talk to Craig Swift, our controls guy, and see.
I mean, maybe
what
we're
we can
doing the
do.
best we can right now, but
Yeah, it's out in the middle of the field all by itself. Radio antennas on it. It's not ideal.
because correct me if I'm wrong, but the first time we got hit, it, the father transformer a few hundred yards away and traveled up the La Plata.
Yes,
line.
yeah, you're correct. Several years ago. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And more, Bill?
So in the general fund, the insurance line went up to 37.
Are you on the
Anticipated.
summary?
I'm looking at the summary sheet,
Okay. Or,
and, the insurance line in the general fund
Mhm.
was budgeted at, like 15.7, and it's at 37 anticipated. And then we're dropping it down to 21 for next year.
So.
Is there an explanation why it went up to 37?
So that 37,000, that is just our anticipated for this year, and that I believe is because we had quite a few insurance claims that came through this year. We had a lot of our vehicles hit animals and various things, so that's why that anticipated number is so high. And then if you're just looking at the adopted from last year and the proposed for this year, that increase there is because we had an 8% increase. But that anticipated number is so high because we had quite a few.
And why is the source of supply? Maybe Justin knows the reason for that, or Andy. The source of supply is like almost 60%. And I'm just curious about that. That's on the water enterprise source of supply in the expenditures.
Of the Jackson Mountain Pipe or
Oh, yes, I can speak to that. We are doing an upgrade on the raw water line for the snowball plant. We have two very steep inclines on that raw water line, and we're replacing one of those steep sections with all fused HDPE line. I am phasing over the next several years of replacing that old AC with all new fused line. We just built a very nice, expensive water treatment plant. Is the veins to get that water to that facility, so we need to make sure that that pipeline is able to provide all of the CFS.
So are we enlarging the pipe as we do that?
No, we're replacing it. We don't need it larger. That old AC has a tendency to break, and it's been in the ground for decades. That HDPE pipe, once we put it in the ground, all of us will be gone before anything needs done with that. That's
So-
put it in.
So Bill, although we're not enlarging it, HDPE has a much smaller friction factor to it. So you can get substantially more water through the same diameter. And additionally, when we increase the flow, and if we increase the flow even more, you will increase the pressure somewhat. And so that new pipe will be able to handle those new pressures.
And so will we be able to transport 5 CFS eventually?
Yes, that's the plan.
That's the plan?
Yep.
Okay. Great. That's encouraging.
Yeah, several year project. I still have a couple miles of line that we'll replace, but I started doing critical sections of it back in 2024. We'll continue to do so.
how much of that is in our long-term capital improvement plan?
It should, I think Justin can probably speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that was always the plan. So yes, it's in that,
Okay.
it's in that
Right.
CIP.
That's all I have.
Something I just want to point out really quickly is that as I've been working through this percentage of projected change, this is looking at the anticipated from 2025 versus the proposed for 2026, which can, depending on where things are at, if we have projects that are coming in at the end of the year that haven't quite hit, it can make those percentages look kind of skewed. Aaron and I have discussed this in detail and have decided that it would better represent the percentage if we looked at the adopted 2025 and the proposed 26. You can see what was actually budgeted and what the changes are in those budgets. So for the the final draft, I will be making that change so those percentages make a little more sense and don't look so skewed.
Okay.
I have a question on the same page there. For water treatment, and I think I talked to you, Andy, but I forgot what you told me. The 58% increase in water treatment, did you say that was mainly chemicals?
Yeah, mainly there's a substantial increase on the snowball facility for the chemical and the maintenance budget. The maintenance side, it is all brand new, but it's all under warranty. If I lose a $65,000 pump, we have to be able to pay for that pump while we work through the warranty claims. So we're putting that money aside for any kind of anticipated loss. We will recoup it once the warranty claim goes through. And then the chemical budget mirrors the chemical budget on the Hatcher plant. That is the exact same facility. We went from a multimedia filtration system to microfiltration, which requires more chemicals, more cleaning. And we anticipate the new snowball plant mimicking what it costs to run the Hatcher plant.
Okay, okay.
I mean, obviously, yet again, this is my first budget review. So, have we done reserve studies or something along those lines?
Reserve studies.
Reserve studies or anything like that? Has any of this been done? I guess I'm just wondering what they're considering a healthy balance for each account. What a third party is telling us we need to have in reserves to, as far as to maintain in the account, because obviously you see a lot of accounts that are up, down, around and through. But obviously knowing that there has to be someone who's projecting, hey, this is what you should have. And are we hitting those numbers or are we not?
Those would be considered in our rate studies that
Okay.
we've done. They would look at those and the board gets to decide, to some extent. We have obligations, reserve obligations when you have, the amount of debt that you have that we do right now. But in terms of operating reserves, that's kind of been all over the place since I've been here over the last 15 years. It just depends on what the current board is comfortable with. And so you go into those rate studies and they ask the board, what would you like that to look like? And then that's when they start to move the numbers around.
And where are we? Where are we now for this year?
So for
10%, is it
2025,
15%?
I don't have any of 2025 in front of me. Oh yeah, I do, it's right here. It's
So our general fund is
um,
required to have 3 months. And apart from our transfers of 500,000, probably 18 months. I mean, if you take away the actual discretionary transfers, so that's.
Didn't the auditor
That's
mention
not
that when the auditor spoke, didn't he mention that we had a very healthy
yes,
general fund?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And we're a fair amount above our required debt service coverage,
yes.
which makes it look pretty healthy as well.
If you look at the detailed sheet, I know there's a lot on there, but it does break down the general fund, the water fund and the wastewater fund. And it shows you what the budgetary balance was at the beginning of the year and what it is at the end of the year. And so if you follow that bottom line item, you can kind of see where those funds, where those balances will lie at the end of the year. So for example, on the anticipated for 2025, the budgetary end of year balance is 1.5 million in the general. And you can kind of go through and it's at the very end of each section after all of those line items for each of those funds. And you can kind of see where those numbers are and where our funds are at here. And
And to Renee's point, I mean, year end, we're expecting a balance of like 5.4 million in the wastewater fund. When we decided to go forward with the lamented pumping system, I think the next year we had a balance of 218,000.
It was running pretty lean for a while. Another, you know what, I think you missed the July meeting, the end of July meeting. Let me send you the auditor's presentation.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'll work. And then the only other question I had was, and I didn't see it anywhere in here, I'm just trying to make sure it is or it's not. But obviously, knowing that one of the priorities we want to prioritize is getting Stevens to Hatcher. I'm assuming because we don't have an agreement with them, that's not budgeted anywhere in the budget, or is that in the budget and I just didn't see it?
that's not in the budget right
It's
now.
not in the budget right now, okay. That may be something we'd wanna look at because I did submit an application for a grant to Southwestern, Water Conservation District last week. To hopefully requesting $100,000 of a estimated $303,000 engineering and design. For next year, and Justin has already gone out and started his conversations with the property owners' representatives.
But-
So
One of my hopes is, and it may be a pipe dream, is that we'll do some trading with the Dutton Ranch owner, and hopefully he will provide most of the matching funds required for the pipeline itself and the pump station by getting some benefits from either our existing pipeline or from water that's located in Stevens. So that's the hope, that this project doesn't have a real expense to us.
I had the same question initially, but I just assumed the stage we're at right now is just a discussion with the new owner. That could very well, probably will spill well into 2026, I'm guessing. And then easements and more discussion. That certainly, is it safe to assume there'd be no construction in 2026? Just some legal costs and surveying maybe?
Yeah, so the $303,000 that Renee just mentioned, that's for engineering, surveying, and environmental clearances. Yeah, it'd be unlikely that we're gonna put a shovel in the ground in 2026.
Okay, thanks.
But those,
Glenn, real quick, I did look up on our CIP. Yes, the snowball line is in there. It's a $2 million split equally between rates and capital investment fees.
so the 300,000 that you just mentioned is in the budget for engineering?
it's not in there yet.
It's not in there yet.
No, we wanted to talk to you
But
about that.
you've submitted the grant.
I did, yeah, but I won't find out till next year. So, but we wanted to get direction from the board to see if that, I had talked to Deborah of you about wanting to really get on that project as quickly. And so I saw the grant come by and I jumped on it. So
Great.
Yeah, I'd love to see that get done, especially after the winter we had. When we have all that water just sitting there. The reason the lake should be at 47%.
So, that being said, what amount can the budget withstand under capital projects? In case we do get to the point of engineering and permitting and surveying.
well, we're hoping to get to the engineering, permitting, and surveying. The budget can absorb, if we get, even if we don't get the grant, the budget can absorb the $303,000. I'm hoping to get the grant. And that is also, a really conservative number because the engineer, pulled that together for me quite quickly. So he made it
Conservative.
and included a lot of, extra time, because he didn't have, the time to put into it to make it more specific. So still kind of all floating around out there, but we wanted you to know that we're working on it and trying to take it. We also talked to I'm also trying to talk to CWCB, and I'm also trying, because it's really their wheelhouse. This is really their type of project, and I did talk to Dola. Encouraging conversation with Dola too.
So do we need to add a line item then in the 2026 capital and other details? Part of the budget?
For 303.
Yes.
Yes, sir, we will, if that's the pleasure of the board.
I'd like to see it in there.
Yeah, I think that's prudent.
Okay. Thank you.
Project.
Got a note, I will get that added.
I have just one question, beginning funds balance, and I am not a budget hawk, I'm something I really need to get better at. But the beginning fund balance from adopted 2025, 4.4 million, anticipated 16.4 million.
That is the $12 million lump sum for Vista.
Okay.
Is included in that number.
I know there was something.
That was for Vista and the collection system.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Glenn?
Well, I mean, I'm not a budget hawk, but I play one on PAWSD TV. So just, I was one who asked for some clarity about how we're gonna handle, the CFO, comptroller / treasurer, business manager position. And so I expected the addition of that, would be a bump up. I'm also a big supporter of, our special projects, compliance, legal, jack of every municipal trade, getting a very significant bump up. But I wasn't prepared for the bump up from a month ago being over $200,000. And not prepared for the total bump up from, I go from audit 24, actual 24 to budget 26. I think that's the most solid way to look at things. And we're gonna be 224K above administrative salaries in audit 24. So I don't see how we get there. If we were to swap out an Aaron for Aaron 2, that's not a cost. If we would recognize that probably Aaron stuck with us and was asking for less money than he could have gotten on the open market, which he did get, then I could see a bump up. But when I add those two together, I don't see anything that should approach $224,000. So I don't want to do math here, but what I would really appreciate is an organizational staff 2025 and an organizational staff 2026 of admin and what the salaries are.
So
And I am not a big supporter of additional admin positions. I mean, I like business manager, Renee doing everything, and then a CFO. Now, if you want to break out that CFO and find somebody who's good, but not quite Aaron's skill set, and then complement them with someone on our staff and give them a bump up in salary, I'm fine with that, but I think that person should be either a manager or a supervisor who either gets overtime or doesn't, depending on your preferences as admins. So I would benefit from seeing that, because right now, and there may be some transitional expenses in here where we're gonna keep on Justin for a month or 2 or 3 months, or consult Aaron on a hourly basis. So I just need to see it, because I can't get to that
Get
224K
that broken
number.
down for
And I wanna go ahead and clarify, and I think Glenn's gonna agree with my clarification that maybe as a private email to us, I don't want that to be a public thing, because obviously the public knowing individual wages, I don't think is appropriate for each person.
I think they do not know those though.
Do
I
we?
think those are public records.
It's a public record.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it was not with the POPOA, so that's where I came from with that.
yeah.
Welcome to government.
In fact, the Sun often publishes like the entire county payroll.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree with you, but I get a little nervous, I guess, when we don't have a backup. So, I think staff is advertising for a CFO right now. And, let's say he or she has a heart attack or something. Do we have somebody that can step right in and cover? Maybe at a different salary level, of course, but having a backup like we do for most other positions seems to make sense.
Right. I just personally, I see that backup as a highly skilled manager or supervisor within a business department, who can then, if they have to take on additional duties, either get a bump up or a year-end bonus for their contribution. And this is not necessarily, I don't want to become like a New Jersey school district with the ministers all having assistants and assistants, and just love saying we have three. We've always had three. Anyway, but that's just my opinion. And maybe I see the breakout and I feel differently. The second is I still can't wrap my head around the mill levies. So I know with the next budget, and hopefully, because we don't have a lot of wiggle room on timelines when we disagree about mill levies, they have to happen. So as soon as we could see the worksheets that support this, I still don't see how valuations in District 1 could be down 0.6. Yet property taxes in the wastewater enterprise, which are in District 1, are up 16%. And how that 16% is permissible, both with Tabor that our voters approved and the 5.5% limitation. So I don't expect that answer here today. And then conversely, in District 2, which is our water only folks, how their valuations could have gone up 16.45%, but they're still getting a property, a Tabor reduction, and their taxes aren't going up at all. It's almost like those numbers are switched. So any help that you could give me on that. Because I can't see myself approving a 16%, even if it's some nominally legal figure. I can't see myself like voting for a 16% property tax increase on our wastewater customers who are subsidizing the whole community, and after the latest vote in the town are even going to be subsidizing the rest of the community even more. So any help there would be great.
Okay.
So maybe between now and December, you can get with staff and.
Well, yeah, because that's when you need to nail down,
Oh, yeah.
because you
absolutely.
gotta approve those no levies.
Absolutely.
You could say, okay, let's have a special meeting on December 31, because we're disagreeing about this or that, yeah.
No, we have to certify when, December.
15th,
Yeah.
before the 15th.
Yeah.
On number 4.
Okay, then we get to the twin thing with, one, I would really appreciate in the wastewater enterprise, if we could have a grants line, like a separate grants line, still, it's not even there. I mean, the water, it's in other revenues slash grants, and then there are other revenues, so. So it's hard for me to know what's going on there, so. The rationale for not transferring $500,000 or some fraction of that to our wastewater fund and our wastewater customers is that we're expecting a large grant that would close out our Tabor limitation of 10%.
I don't think we had made a decision on that necessarily, like, because the $1 million grant will hit in 2026. No. I think Aaron's I think he just submitted partial reimbursement of the $1 million grant from DOLA for Vista last month. The RPR grant, that was $200,000, that pays for the RPR position over here. That one we're not gonna submit for until 2026 because that's state funds, so it does count towards our Tabor limitation.
Right.
The $1 million is federal, and so it does not count towards our Tabor
Right.
limitation.
So we're looking more at $226,000 in state and local grants in wastewater?
For 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever other remaining from the $1 million. I don't know what Aaron.
That's
submitted.
federal,
Yeah, that's federal.
so it won't be
Yeah.
Tabor. So yes, I would like to seriously consider sending maybe 300,000. I understand the
Yeah.
rationale for water,
Mhm.
for this $1 million cost over on what is, I don't care. and I'm one to try and be very generous about what's growth and what's maintenance, but that's purely maintenance. And I understand that, but again, our wastewater customers, I live downtown. I love the subsidy that PAWSD gives me downtown, but for county folks who live up here or in the wastewater district, they're paying through the nose for everybody, and they're treating everyone's sewage at $1.80 per thousand and basically paying $40 per thousand when you add it all up with their taxes. So I would like to see some of the general fund money dedicated to wastewater, so that maybe we can bring this 10% rate increase down to about 7% range. I mean, just a quick, every percent in wastewater costs us, I mean, that's not the way to put it. It costs the customers $30,000, and in the water, about $60,000. And I just think that the water district, because of a rate study that we have to redo, is plugged in at 3%, 3%, 3% for 10 years. And a sizable, but still pretty reasonable increase in CIP. The wastewater folks, 1,000% increase in CIP. 30, 10, this would be 10, that'd be like a 52% cumulative increase in it. I just don't think it's fair to the wastewater, because the people who pay a wastewater bill pay the majority of the property taxes. So any consideration that could be given to a transfer, even holding it, just putting it in as a placeholder, and then at the end of the year, you give you maximum discretion. Hey, if you max out the grants on either side, then you can move it to the other side. And I don't think bringing this down to 7%, which would be $90,000 roughly. That's, I think we can carve $90,000 out of the general fund. And I don't know, I just feel, I don't think we have a rate study that we can rely on. I think we just, for 1 year, we have to operate with, last year was fine, common sense. And not hit, to the extent we cannot hit anybody too hard, let's just not hit people too hard. And then I wouldn't mind a breakout of, because the legal expenses are meticulously categorized. What are the total legal expenses? What are dry gulch related and what are non-dry gulch related? Just give me a sense what we're spending on lawyers.
Yeah, and I did look into this after the last meeting and I found out that the way that the legal expenses do get broken out between the general fund 50%, the water fund 34%, and the wastewater fund 16%. But when I was looking into this, I noticed that the legal and professional line item is only on the general fund, and that also includes outside services. So Aaron and I were discussing that this morning, that we should probably break those out a little differently to make it a little easier to see exactly what you're looking at there.
And there again, not to, beat the horse, but when you break it out 50 and 16, most of the folks are uptown paying their sewer taxes are funding the general fund. So it's 66% that the legal is, probably 55% is being paid by sewer customers. But I think we just always have to keep in that. Again, I live downtown, I love the subsidy, but.
And Glenn, how exactly did you want that broken out?
If you could just say, that, if you wanted to rejigger those, that's maybe for next year in a rate study. I just want to know, what are we spending on dry gulch and what are we spending on non-dry gulch?
Okay, there you go. Okay. Sure.
And then in the anticipated, on that note, have we anticipated that since we're actually gonna be going to court, it seems? I would assume that there would be additional fees. That would be just nominal, it would be actually like.
It should be, is that the 191 number?
That's our proposed for 26. We don't have, the anticipated for 25 is 68,000. And those numbers are as of the end of September where we were sitting, so that might not include
anything.
Yeah, correct. And those numbers will get updated for the final. We'll have a better idea of what those numbers actually look like towards the end of this month.
I mean, I'm just viewing this year as a placeholder year until we have a lot of input into a rate study. And and the board has to make decisions about what they want to include. I would prefer to kick Title 31, whatever it might be, 5, 7, 10, 12 years from now, out of this rate study. And I'll make my arguments for that, but, and bring a little bit of relief to people who want to build things in our community, but that's for another, but that rate study will be what that rate study is, you know. So I make no pretend, what I'm suggesting is kind of seat of the pants. And it either seems commonsensical or it seems not. And I'm open to people saying it's not.
I think all the things that you've asked for, we can deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And how Reg 31 plays into all of that is, you know, partially out of our control. That's gonna be a federal and state thing, and the more we know about that,
Right.
maybe we can bump it 3, 4, 5 years into the future, but
You could make a real good case that we should have been more prudent and we should have been collecting, we should have moved our capital investment fee wastewater from 798, 998 to something 3,000, 4,000 and not been so confident that Reg 85 wasn't actually gonna be applied to us. Because we probably could have collected 30%. If Reg 31 hits, that cost is gonna be so colossal
Yeah.
that whatever we put in the Christmas club for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like a rounding error.
that's correct.
I mean, it's gonna, so, and people should know that too, going in, that, hey, we're not charging you this right now, but if this hits.
Yeah,
And the federal
that's gonna
government
be an
imposes this on the whole country, that we have to bring nitrogen down to infinitesimal levels
and temperature
and temperature, the whole thing. That's gonna make the bond issue for Snowball. It'll be 3 times that,
We're gonna get hit hard.
Yeah.
Either way, if it happens,
yeah,
why cut growth in the process potentially? You know, by raising up fees beyond, you know, calculating for something that is gonna devastate us either way.
right, I'd rather have
Yeah.
more people paying the bill in 10 years,
Yes.
yeah,
you know.
more development.
So currently what we did in our capital investment plan that we did at the last rate study, we had Reg 31 starting in 2035 at a little over $2.5 million per year through the end of the capital investment plan and beyond. That's what we had initially, was to start that was in 2035.
Nothing.
Wow.
I'm thinking about
That's
abating.
really low, and I'm sorry, I'm just.
Getting what I'm interested
I think I was gonna
in.
forward
Our
this.
still, I think.
It's a large file that got between us, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. Thank you. I appreciate your questions and your requests. And the opportunity to explain.
And it's not the end of December.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. If it's the end of December this year, we'll have to meet up in New York.
Carl's got his hand up. Do you have a comment, Carl?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just have a question about, see, it's line 600304 in wastewater enterprise fund, municipal wastewater treatment. It's flat from 2024, and then you've got it flat again through 2026. I'm just wondering why that is, since to me, there appears to have been quite a bit of development downtown.
Carl, I'm sorry about that.
I can answer that question. So we have an agreement with the town and IGA that went through the courts, that put together a equation of how we develop what the fee that we're going to charge the town. And so it's just how the math is worked out. And we can send you that, but it's I wouldn't say it's complicated, but there's a lot of variables that go into it.
It's
Well,
also
yeah,
proper.
I'm just wondering why the calculation doesn't show any increase. No growth was anticipated when that agreement was signed and in the calculation.
It wasn't that it wasn't anticipated, but that's what the courts came up with. Trust me, that's the one that Glenn's talking about. That it's not a good deal for PAWSD.
No,
And
it's not.
It's also highly dependent on I and I. So like if there's a big I and I month where they have to send, you know. I think they've sent
Like
one
last
point five million gallons a day up, then they're paying a lot more. And we have to credit them because they've really started to focus on curing their own I and I issues. So it's quite probable that they'll be sending less up to us. On that, we're only an hour in. If I could waste a minute and just say, the town passed the sales tax. They're going to have an extremely well-funded PSS GID for the next 30 years. They'll probably collect 100, and sales tax goes up the way it's gone up in the past, no guarantee of that. But they could collect $180 million over the course of say a 35-year bond for what they're building. Good, then now they, you know, if they pursue their own plant, that's good for the uptown folks and PAWSD, because then that provides some clarity about what we need to do going forward. It might get some volume off our books that helps us when Reg 31 rolls out. There may be some volumetric. Your subject this year, if you're at under 2 million, you're subject in 45, you know. So I think we need clarity from the town now that they have this big booming revenue stream. Or are they going to pursue their own plant? You know, I don't know how we open that up, but
We meet
The
with them,
discussions I've heard, yes, they are pursuing the one plant.
right.
we meet with them monthly. The town, and the, Carl Johnson, who runs their wastewater system. And they've been talking to us about their, sales tax and hoping that it passes, and that they have indicated that they would probably be leaning more towards their own plant than they were in fall of 2023, when they were thinking, no, we just need to stick with PAWSD and do whatever, you know, partner with PAWSD. And they also said that they are planning to provide us with their contribution
Right.
to Vista, which is really good news too.
Because that was really to cover the interim between the application of 85 and whenever 31 kicked in, and that, whether they pursue their own plant or not, they've seen that benefit. So that's fair, and they dealt with us very fairly on the calculation of that 25%. It should be said, they could have tried to play really sharp on that. But I'm just saying, the worst case for PAWSD customers is using all of that money to optimize the pumping system and the collection system, and then provide lots of development money for subsidized growth that then the uptown folks have to treat at $1.80 per thousand, you know, because we can really handle a 1,500 EUs, but if it becomes 1,800 and 2,300, and then over 20 years becomes 4,300 EUs getting pumped up here. Out of, you know,
Yeah,
Then-
that agreement might need to be looked at again.
yeah, so.
Definitely. That, the agreement, just to refresh everybody's recollection and to educate those who weren't here then, was the result of a mediation that we were involved with the town on.
And that's another point I could make to Carl, is part of that agreement also is, yeah, that's what we charge them for 1,000 gallons of wastewater, but they are required to help pay for expansions of our wastewater treatment plant. And it's based on their hydraulic load. And so, for instance, with the Reg 85 upgrades, the town is responsible for 25% of those costs, which is on top of that X dollars per 1,000 gallons.
In reality, there is a growth
Yeah.
factor in there, if that helps answer the question, Carl.
Yeah, it does. And just where is that in the budget?
I don't know that we put it in there yet, because they were going to pay over time when business started, but then they ran into some challenges, and so we checked, they asked if we could check with our auditor to see if it would be okay if they just provided us a one-time payment in 26, and the auditor said yes, but that we still bill them for it and it just rolls. And they did pay for the engineering, their portion of the engineering,
I saw in the budget 25,000
in their budget,
in their budget.
in their budget. That
So
might
I
have
think
been
they're planning to pay it over 10 years.
the 25,000. Well, they
You
did.
might check with them, because I think.
We do ask them every, yeah.
When do we anticipate receipt of their?
So Vista is gonna be completed in June-ish, June, July, if everything goes on schedule. And so we discussed with them spring of 2026. We're trying to work with them so that we get paid, their contribution.
So is that amount anticipated in the budget then in the spring of this coming year? Receipt of X amount of
We
dollars?
will in the final version, yeah,
Okay.
but like I said, we didn't wanna put it in our budget just yet. Because we weren't certain we were gonna receive that money in 2026.
Yeah,
Until they're, yeah, which happened last week.
Well, I mean, personally, I'm not anticipating people walking in the door and offering to cut a check for $2.5 million. I think I'm anticipating people walking in the door saying, well, you financed it over a certain term and it's got this carrying cost. And we would like to take on our 25% share of that.
Mhm.
Board members can agree to that or not. I would agree to that as long as they understand that
Mhm.
they will still be paying for that perhaps when they have their own plant. Because they were paying for it for that 10-year
Plus interest.
fix. You know, that needs to be clear. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, we'll pay our portion for 10 years and then we build our plant.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we don't pay anymore, because that's not fair either.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
whatever
That's,
financing is for the 2.5 million.
yeah, they made it seem like they would cut a check.
Okay, maybe they're that, they may be
But,
that flush and they just wanna,
Maybe, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, certainly, we have loaned them money before.
I guess I would just, for lack of a better way to put it, is to make sure we stay on the driver's seat.
Oh, I'm driving.
Yeah, I know. I just want to say publicly, you know, we have loaned them money before, we went through the litigation. And, now that, you know, they did, I think, a great, effort in getting
Yeah.
the issue passed.
Yeah.
And so now we expect,
Mhm. They have some pretty significant collection repairs to make too, which will benefit us, you know,
Yeah.
because during the flood, we were a little nervous at the wastewater treatment facility. They were sending us a lot.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, over $1 million.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
But let's not miss that
yeah,
with past, that was a massive
huge,
change in the whole power dynamics in the community. That with the passage of that, the town even more is in the driver's seat in a macro way.
Mhm.
In fact, I don't think you're gonna have to worry too much about light tech projects coming up here with what they're gonna be able to offer
Mhm.
with that kind of, so I think,
We will talk to them
Yeah.
again at the beginning of December, and I will echo the board's concern and request for clarification from
and they
them.
must have municipal bond people like 10 a day contacting them after the passage of that.
yeah, as long as everybody understands, we have already paid close to 8 million for the Vista project. It's already paid for, if I understand correctly.
It's ongoing payments.
Yeah, it's, we financed it.
Yeah, we did the revenue bond last fall, and that generated 12 million, so we have the cash to pay it right out. We don't have to go, like with Snowball, we have to get payouts go to the state, and they go for basically reimbursement, and then they cut the checks for us. We're sitting on it right now, and then we are quickly spending. We've spent roughly 1.7 million this year so far on the collection system. We spent 1.4 million on the collection system, or 1.5 the year before. So, and that's all the revenue bond money too. And so we will continue to process those pay apps for Vista. Do you think it's monthly?
It's monthly.
Yeah,
It's
it's
monthly.
monthly that we're getting those, and we are still, sending the town invoices with everything as it's accumulating, even though they're not paying, we're continuing to invoice those, as the auditor recommended that we do.
And I should restate my comment, we haven't paid for it, but we have made the obligation.
Yeah.
To pay for it, and therefore we have a reasonable expectation of. Of
Their
repayment.
contribution, yeah.
And they've confirmed that they're going to pay that. And again, I'll reiterate, in the original calculation, they were extremely like fair-minded about, okay, these are our EUs, these are ours, let's not look at this volumetric stuff that moves up and down by the year. So I would expect this is not gonna be contentious.
Did you say that with your fingers crossed?
I don't expect it.
Meetings have been going well.
Yeah.
They're not contentious at
Yeah.
all. It's a very good working relationship. They're very open with us. It was in May when they first came to us with their challenges, and we've just been trying to work with them ever since.
Jed Clampett was real nice after he took that shot in that.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the budget? No?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to number 5, consideration of employment agreement for district manager position. Andrew Connor.
Does anyone need a hard copy of that?
I got one and have read it.
Okay.
I know
Anybody
it
else?
pretty well at this point.
I only had one thing to add, and it's not, I would just in paragraph 5 add, and you can not add it, but I don't think any court would not see the common sense here, but it says employer agrees to pay employee $145,000 effective the first day of the month. I would say agrees to pay the employee an annual salary of 45.
Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you for that.
I don't think anyone's gonna push for that, but you know.
And it's sitting over there going, dang it.
Yeah. We'll make that
Do we need,
change now.
do we need a vote of approval on that?
Oh. Well, you're gonna vote to approve the whole thing.
With that amendment.
Yeah, with that amendment.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me make that change right now.
Name spelled right this time. Good, thank you.
Number 6,
Well, we do need to make a vote on that, don't we?
Yep.
Oh.
I would make a motion that we approve the employment agreement for district manager position for Andrew Connor.
Second, yeah.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You know, just as the person who wants the outline of the admin expenses and this is a very fair contract and for your skill set and your experience and what,
About a 2-minute negotiation.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna be able to prove to the board that I can do what I say I can do. We still have plenty of years left. Move forward with them.
Glad to have you.
great.
Okay,
Yes.
now number 6. Update regarding water loss efforts. I'm guessing, Andy, that's in your court?
Yes, I wanted to give the board an update on the Astera program. That was the satellite detection that we did a few months back. We had points of interest, so POIs, we investigated 104 out of 121 interests within the satellite images that we got back from Astera. And the ones that we did not get to was, we ran out of time. We had 10 days of correlator team on site. And most of that is downtown with CDOT project going on and just the busyness and the chokehold of the roads. We were unable to get to that. So I would like to pursue that later in 2026. 18 leaks were discovered on the customer side, and the office has contacted all those customers and notified them. Some of those leaks were small enough that the drop counter does not pick them up. This correlator team can hear 0.25 GPM leak at a very small spray within the system. 35 of the 52 total leaks that they had are not surfacing. So that is another point that I had made last month, that it's not water gushing 20 foot high off the side of Highway 160. These are small leaks that are traveling through shot rock and shale. So having this correlator team out here was very beneficial for the district to be able to pinpoint some leaks that we can't see. Our customers aren't calling. We don't see them. We had 13 water main leaks, 3 of which are still outstanding. We got 10 of them repaired since the stairs been out, and we do have those scheduled. All of the leaks except the one on Holiday were very small that Astera found, under 50 GPM. So the water loss report didn't drop considerably. But one of the big things that we did find was we had 20 service line leaks, and most of those leaks were partially blown out meter bottoms. So water meters got the body and the register and the chamber inside. Yeah, right there. That composite bottom, during that cold snap we had this last winter, they would freeze thaw. Some of them started to blow out. We live in the mountains. We have pretty substantial pressure in our system. If they were just spraying a little bit out of the side, the customers may have not even noticed pressure loss. And we don't have any way other than pumping 6,500 meter pits open to tell you that there's a leak inside there. But the Astera map, when the satellite rolled over it, it saw the saturation around that meter pit. We sent the correlator team out, they started pumping these pits, and we started finding those leaks. So we had 20 of those that would replace meter bottoms that we were losing some revenue on, and it could have been months before we actually found them. They would have to blow out far enough to where we would get notified of the pressure drop. Something that was a really positive thing that came out of this whole leak detection is the correlator team started noticing when they were hooking up to the setters within the water meter pits that some of the registers on low flow were not registering. You know, when you go in and just get a drink of water or just flush a toilet, that's a very small amount of water running through that meter, and they were not registering on those meters. So I went ahead, I sent off 9 meters to a company, Metron Meter, up in Denver, and we had those meters flow tested. Above 15 gallons per minute, they were reading spot on. But every single one of those 9 meters at a 1/4 gallon or less were under registering just slightly. So there is lost revenue throughout the system for those meters on just the small, get a drink of water, flush a toilet. But during irrigation time or a shower, they're registering correctly. So what I'm doing.
Real quick, Andy, I'd argue they weren't even then going spot on. When we had a meeting with them yesterday, and they had mentioned that the meters are considered good by AWWA if they're reading between 98.5 and 101. And I believe all of those meters were in the 90% to 105%. So I think all 9 of our meters were just a little outside of what AWWA recommends.
Yeah, depending on the flow rates, because they check it at different flow rates. 1/4 gallon, 2 gallon, 5 GPM, and then 15 gallons per minute. So right now my plan is we only pulled 9 meters out of 6,500 accounts. We are shipping those meters back because I need those meters to put back in the ground so we can pull the jumpers that we have in. I'm going to send off another 20 meters. Those meters were installed around the 1980s. I'm picking out another 20 to see if this is just an anomaly or we can start to see a trend. And then we will start to pull either later meters, newer meters, just start collecting data in 2026 and figure out, do we have an under meter under registering meter problem or not, and then go ahead and find a new meter to replace these. I'm working with 3 separate manufacturers now. We met with Metron Meter, Justin and I did earlier this week. They have a new meter that they can read flow under a quarter of a GPM, which is kind of where we're seeing as of right now an issue. And then we'll meet with the other 2 reps next week. We'll start to gather data on those 3 manufacturers and see which way we would like to start to go with our new meter replacement once we get to that point.
Are the meters under registering in a kind of consistent, reliable way at those low?
Well, it depends.
Because if you did, you might save yourself the expense of all of this meter replacement as long as it's a solid number and you've tested good, solid, big sample size, just doing a statistical adjustment to the bill, which might raise bill 67 cents a month, and a similar adjustment to our water loss figures. Not to abuse that, because that is open to abuses, but if it's legit that we've got, 6,000 meters out there and they're reliably under registering by 1% or 1.5%, then that's something that,
It's really hard because you could have 2 separate accounts. You could have one account where it's just a single person in that home. They're not running the dishwasher in the shower all day long. So all of that under registering, most of the water running through there, we're not getting any revenue on. But the house right next to them is 6 people living in there and they're running water all the time. That meter's gonna be reading a little bit better. So I would propose to the board that it would be better to go ahead and start. We'll collect this data and see where the issue is, if they're under registering, or if we just have a handful from a certain year period that we can replace, or do we need to really go through this and start phasing out a complete meter replacement over the next several years.
What is the cost?
There is $450 a meter is where we're at right now.
And what's the lifespan like of these
The
things?
one that we looked at, the Metron rep that we met with earlier this week, was a 10-year warranty on the body and the register. The battery was a 20-year warranty.
Okay.
And they also offered a 10-year freeze warranty. This last year, we had that cold snap come through and it started blowing the meter bottoms out. They would warranty those for 10 years.
Okay.
I think we have to measure perfect fairness to every family configuration versus maybe a general statistical approach, which saves us $3 million. If we're gonna replace 6,000 meters at 450 pop, that's,
And you had
or
mentioned
to claw back, maybe we'd have to get a good solid estimate about what kind of revenue we're losing out of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to send off more meters for flow testing. A typical meter is only good for 6 to 7 years. We have meters in the ground that are much older than that.
Okay.
So we're trying to get a handle on water loss. There is loss through these meters. I'm starting to gather the data for it out to be able to present you that is a real thing.
And then on the main leaks, all these leaks that you found, what do you think is our actual rough, realistic water loss drop? I mean, we talking 10 gallons per minute.
It was less than 50 GPM. Most of these were really small leaks. We had quarter-gallon leaks. We did not find any gushers, which didn't really surprise me either, because typically those gushers are blowing out roads and ditches. We know about those. What I think we have is possibly thousands of small leaks, quarter-gallon up to just a couple of GPM, that is accumulating over so many accounts and 300 miles of distribution pipe.
So we're looking at like maybe a 5% reduction.
Yeah, we had a little bit. It was a couple % reduction in the water loss for this month.
And it was about $75,000 is what we spent on that. Is that correct?
It was $84,000 the entire thing. But
I think it's the best bang for a buck we've gotten so far that I'm aware of.
It's since I've been at PAWS, it's the only time that we've brought in a third party to look for water loss, that we dug holes, every single hole we put in the ground, we found water leaking.
Is this something we
Wasn't
wanna
a
do
lot.
again next year? I
This
mean,
is my
The
question.
Astera portion, no, that would be the satellite.
okay,
I wanted a snapshot of what the system looked like and the saturation levels. Now I know, this particular street over here, we potentially have an issue. What I want to focus on first is figuring out this meter issue, see what that looks like, and then possibly bring the correlator team out for downtown.
okay.
Especially being downtown, it's all asphalt and concrete. I can't hunt for water. I need to know if there's a water leak on such and such street. We want to dig a 6x6 hole in the ground.
Yes.
I don't want 20 feet of asphalt repair chasing water.
Mhm.
So the correlator is really where the bang for the buck is.
Okay.
And that's about $40,000 worth for what we did for 10 days. Well,
So-
and I think that is beneficial.
So we probably are dying from 1,000 cuts. I think the big leaks, we've already found those. The thing with the meters, the good news and the bad news, kind of the same news. If we replace those meters, which I'm guessing is probably going to be an issue, it is expensive. But for what we're going to get out of it, it's probably cheaper than fixing that many small leaks, where you got to dig holes and replace asphalt. So it's actually fairly low hanging fruit. If a good percentage of or at least a high percentage of our water loss is through underreporting meters, replacing them is a much more cost effective way than trying to find 1,000 quarter per minute leaks.
One thing you both had mentioned to me too, I think, which is maybe good for the board and the public to understand. All of our current meters are, for lack of a better word, mechanical.
Mhm.
They've got moving parts. And when you put a microphone on them or whatever, you can hear the water.
Mhm.
There's new technology out there that have meters with no moving parts. That's a good thing. Except if there's a leak now, you won't be able to hear it because there's no moving parts.
Yes.
So when you
Yeah.
consider your solution, that's just something you're gonna have to think about and.
Yes, exactly. There's pros and cons. The ultrasonic meters is what you're talking about without moving parts in there. There's just a probe. It's very accurate, but it's a full replacement if it breaks. And if you have a leak on the service line going up to the house and you put it just right on that meter, you can't hear it through there. But you could hook up to the meter pits that are on both sides and you could hear that water go through. It's just the actual meter itself isn't conductive for the sound. So there's still ways around it. But we will see this low flow could potentially really help us out with some of this water loss that we're having a challenge finding. And Justin is absolutely correct. If we have a 2 gallon per minute leak on 8th Street and I have to cut that road up, that could be $25,000 repair for just 2 gallons per minute, where I can take that money and replace a lot of water meters and recoup that same loss somewhere else.
Except that leak is not going to get better.
No,
That's the
it's
trade.
still going to be there, but I need to know where it is.
Right.
That's more of what my point is. If
Which
I
is
knew,
actually-
you just dig them up.
I know this sounds silly, but that's actually a strategy sometime. If you can't find it, it's, within 500 square feet. Letting it go for a little while so it does get worse and surfaces. That's
It can be cost effective that
one
way.
strategy.
Hunting for water on an asphalt road is extremely expensive.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating we don't fix those leaks. I'm just saying if a good chunk of our leaks are caused by these meter we don't have leaks. We have losses that our meters aren't picking up. That's just that's what I'm hoping we have. I'm certainly not advocating that we don't fix those leaks on
Nor
our
am
8th
I.
Street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we could approach some, what one might consider like penalty rates for actually going in and fixing leaks too and doing things, you know. Provided we leave the site in a, you know, better condition than we left it, I don't think we should have additional fees assessed to us for cutting into roads and things like
Yeah.
that, but.
I think that's planned, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay, that takes care of number 6. Any other things you'd like to discuss before we adjourn?
No. Move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.